back with a kind of final follow-up for the Seafoam oil change treatment that we did. One other thing I did a couple weeks ago, I changed the stock spark plugs out, and I'm fairly certain they were the stock ones. The back four were, I'll put pictures up so you can see how bad they were. But anyway, I changed the spark plugs out here a couple weeks ago. We just did the Seafoam treatment and everything yesterday, or day before yesterday, to see how that all went. And right now we're doing basically a 250-mile trip. I've got reserve weekend this weekend, and it's usually, depending on what hotel I end up staying at, it's right at 246 miles from my house to the hotel. So I'm going to just estimate it 250. And 9 times out of 10, actually I take that back, every time that I've gone to reserves for the weekend, I have basically I've left the base, or I've left my house, filled the gas tank up as soon as I left the house, reset the trip odometer, and driven to the base, to the hotel, whatever. And every single time so far, as soon as I got basically in town, I've had to go straight to the gas station, or not even get into town because I was out of gas pretty much, and go fill up the gas tank. And so now, 2006 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD with a 6.0 liter. We've got a little over 120,000 miles on the truck overall. I got it, 3,000-4,000 miles ago. And right now we're doing a fuel comparison kind of thing. Filled up the tank again before I left. And right now I'm at, if you can see that there, 118 miles. Let's see if I can get that in there close for you. It's a little bumpy road out here right now, but we're basically at 118 miles. There you go. And if you can see the fuel gauge, we're just barely edging past a quarter tank. That's the fuel gauge right there. So almost 120 miles on 1/4 tank of gas. I'm going to go ahead and say at 100 miles, I was at a quarter tank exactly. And which basically says, theoretically, I should be able to pull 400 miles out of this tank, but I don't see that happening by any stretch of the imagination, because one thing you got to take into account is that your gauge, you can fill your fuel tank up past where the gauge is actually showing. When you fill it up completely full, it shows a little bit past the full line. So taking that into account, I've actually burned a little bit more than a quarter tank. And obviously, as you get going, fuel economy will average out when you're about a half tank or so, just because you've got a little less weight to deal with, and you've got enough fuel in the tank to keep a steady flow and not, starve it out or something like that if you got a really low amount of fuel in there. But anyways, we are driving basically 250 miles, and we're about halfway there right now, and I've used just over a quarter tank of fuel, doing basically an average of about 75 miles an hour the entire way. And about the only time I had to slow down was going through Columbia, because it drops down to a 60 mile an hour. And this is also with the air conditioning on, because right now it's about 73 degrees outside. It's a little after 8 o'clock, and 20 minutes ago it was still 80 degrees outside, and so I've had the air conditioning on, staying nice and cool. So 100 miles with the air conditioning on, doing 75 to 80 miles an hour in a 2500 HD pickup truck with 410 gears in the rear. Let me say that too. I've gotten 100 miles in a quarter tank so far. And so basically what we're going to do is, once we get up to the base, to the hotel, we're going to check the fuel mileage again, see where we're sitting as far as the gas tank is concerned, and then we're going to go fill up the tank and see how many gallons we actually used, and see what the actual fuel economy was for this trip. And hopefully it's a lot better than 21 gallons for 250 miles. So, if we made it halfway on a quarter tank, hopefully we should be able to at least get there and still have, ideally, at least another quarter tank left over. And like I said, I still got another hour and a half or so of driving. I don't know, I drive kind of fast, so I can usually shave off some time, but we'll get back here in about an hour or so and refuel the truck and see what kind of fuel miles we got. And just to reiterate, change spark plugs, which I'm sure has a big part to play in this, but also Seafoam in the truck, and changing the oil from conventional over to Royal Purple motor oil with a Wix filter. And other than that, Everything else is pretty much stock. Like I said, again, 410 gears in the back of this big-ass truck, and trying to get a little bit better than 12 miles per gallon on the highway. And we'll see you in a little bit. All right, we just got into the gas station. We're literally 0.4 miles away from the hotel. 254 miles on the odometer. See that? It's kind of, there we go. And we're sitting at just below quarter tank left in the truck. So far, I guess we're going to fill up real quick. I guess I can shut it off and save some gas real quick. But I'm going to fill up the tank, and we'll get back to you and see how much we filled in, and do some math and see what we got. Alrighty, just gassed the truck up. End up putting in 17.802 gallons with 254.1 miles. Before I left, I filled the truck up, did the gas mileage on it, and it was 21.114 gallons of gas at 255.2 miles, and that's after doing the spark plug change and the 1 can of Seafoam in the tank and filling it up. And that left us with a total of 12.086 miles per gallon. Now with the 254, let's see here, 254.1 divided by the 17.802 nets us with 14.27 miles per gallon. So a little over 2 miles per gallon more from doing the Seafoam and the oil change from the last fuel run we made. So if you haven't done it already, newer cars, I wouldn't, you don't really need to do it. I do it on all my vehicles, basically whenever I first buy them, depending on how old they are, how many miles on them, and every subsequent 10,000 miles. And if I don't do the full intake, or if I don't do the whole oil change and everything with the Seafoam, I definitely do at least the gas part every 10,000 miles. And it's just, it's one of those things. It's the way I work. I know when I'm doing it, I know I can trust it. And basically, if I don't, depending on the oil and the vehicle and how hard I'm pushing it and whatnot, I'll drive 5,000 miles on a single oil change, and at that point I won't do the Seafoam every 10,000 miles. I'll wait either every 15 or every 20, just because if you're only changing oil every 5,000 miles, you don't really need to do the Seafoam oil treatment every 10,000 if you're changing it that time frame. When I was racing, I changed my oil at 3 times a year, either 3 months or 3,000 miles, or sometimes every 500 miles if I was racing a lot during the season. But and I'd Seafoam every 3rd oil change on the Camaro. On the truck, I'll probably do the Seafoam in the oil and everything every 10,000, just because I tow trailers with cars on them. I tow all sorts of equipment, and not to say I'm too hard on the truck, but I definitely make her work. But anyway, I think that pretty much concludes the whole oil change Seafoam treatment and the benefits that it can do. And I hope you enjoyed all this, and we'll see you next time.